Hi guys, it is Taurus season, so it seems to be very appropriate to use this Earth Magic deck. So we are going to have that assist us in the readings. So before we just jump into your readings, just to let you know that I still have the promotions, speed up promotion, meaning you get one level up. So you sign up for a regular reading, you get a rush reading, you sign up for rush, you get urgent, and you sign up for urgent, you get it before you finish typing. Not kidding, you get it in 24 hours. So just go on cattarot.ca and find basically where I have this special list is listed under book your reading. Now, second thing I have, annual Tauroscopes are still discounted, and like it's only $10 for one sign or $20 for all of the signs. So you can check your Venus sign, you can check your ascendant, you can check your sun sign. I generally like to lurk on the other people's Mars signs to see kind of like how that's going to work out. And lastly, I'm taking applications for the next round of Tarot School, which is starting May the 15th. The first group is running, and I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, such a kind of lovely group. So I'm just seeing how this evolves. It's not going to be 10 lessons as I initially thought. It will be 11 minimum. And that's it from my announcement. So guys, hopefully also you're going to join my Facebook or Instagram or both, so you can get a daily reading or kind of like a little bit kind of learn about tarot. And I think this is enough for me. So the next is your May Tauroscopes. Hi Taurus, and happy birthdays, like for those of you who already celebrated and for those of you who have something coming up. So let's start with the Meadow, like because this is such a wonderful card to get, especially for an earth sign, right? So it's vulnerability card, right? And just like Taurus, it is like that beauty and openness, right? And when we see the meadow, like the flowers are always perfectly arranged. You are never walking through the meadow and going, this is odd, you shouldn't be there, right? No, it always like feels perfect in its imperfection, right? So it's almost like poetic design that's kind of like orchestrated by nature, right? So for some, being in such an open space could be terrifying and kind of like maybe feeling exposed and defenseless, right? Because it is sort of like lack of perceived safety, because safety is very important to Taurus, right? But for the others, it's kind of like feeling like very satisfying experience walking through this kind of like meadow, right? Given that you received also laziness and basically guilt, as you can tell, very opposing kind of like how they look. This dude over here, he's sitting in his slippers, right, on the little cushion. Well, almost like what if we don't have sort of like the idea, thinking he had made it. The truth is that this could be an illusion. Why? Because there are still things that maybe are iced or challenges that need to be conquered. This is simply talking about sort of possibly kind of like enjoying the situation where we are, but also, I guess, feeling guilt over things that we still need to do. It's kind of really interesting because you being a nerd sign, this is going deep and high. So that kind of like is really positive when it comes to the personality development. You're going really deep to kind of unearth certain things, but you're not forgetting, after all, your earth element. Even though this is kind of like water, you are still not forgetting to enjoy yourself, right? Because this is telling me like that maybe you are taking risks with your feelings, and even more important, risk with the truth of who you are. And like, it's, what do I mean by that? Like, who do you think you are in your heart and in your soul, right? You don't have to be subjected to maybe these conditioned fears, because the guilt is one of the most unproductive situations, which kind of entraps us, right? Because this is kind of almost the opposite. It's kind of like could be swinging in between these two extremes, right? Maybe kind of like, okay, this was my birthday month. Mind you, the non-earth signs usually don't have this kind of issues, but this could be issue for you, where, you know, like you overindulge and it's like, oh my god, I have spent all that money. And then there is like this guilt and nothing you can do. It's just kind of like feeling, oh my god, what do I do, right? So the truth is, be vulnerable. And that, I know it is very, very hard, because sure, we don't want to be vulnerable because we want to put a kind of strong face and brave face, or we just really don't want to show weakness because, right, others may judge, evaluate, criticize and put us down, and then we have to deal with that additional layer of basically crap, right? But you see, this is also a card that kind of like talks about trusting yourself, that, you know, it is about you, it is about your own strength, because vulnerability can be a weakness if you don't have the strength at the same time. They are not mutually exclusive, because if you do have strength to deal with those reactions rather than basically responding kind of like adaptively, you know, kind of allow yourself to be vulnerable. This is also telling me that this is also a message to you to also look in other people's vulnerabilities. Pay attention to especially word no, because this is the simplest thing that somebody's telling you, please. This is the line in the sand, because Taurus, being so strong, sometimes violates people's boundaries, but also somebody might be violating yours. That no means don't do it, because why do we push after we hear no from the other people? We push because we have this inborn sense of arrogance or sense of superiority. We must be right. This is probably built-in survival technique, right? But that could be so damaging, because just imagine that you are in the space that somebody is basically shoving down your throat something you don't want to hear, you don't want to listen, you don't want to know. Example, you know, especially with women, we kind of like to, because we have lots of connections between the left and right hemisphere, we like to communicate with others about their troubles, and sort of like sharing is very important, right? Men don't have as many connections. I think they only have 2. So hence, hey, she is coming to me for a solution. So next thing you know, you're telling somebody, oh my god, you know, these pants are making me fat, look fat. You don't need somebody to solve things for you. You just simply want to say to somebody, oh, you know, I'm kind of having this weak moment. So you expect hug and a kiss. You don't need to hear, no, you don't look fat, because you do know, you have the mirror. And you do, however, do not want somebody to tell you, you need to stop eating carbs. This is what you do. Carbs, 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 carbs. Because, right, there is war declaration. Okay, I know that. So this is exactly the opposite of what you wanted to kind of accomplish. So having strength to realize that somebody is either clueless or misguided or basically obnoxious, right, is actually very important. So I would say this talks about building confidence, really. And, you know, be also very careful about holding back from expressing your truth, because sometimes that not showing vulnerability shows that illusion of safety, you know, sort of like you see three people, let's say they don't speak your language and you know they're hungry. One person is not telling you this, but the other two are squawking. This doesn't mean that just this person didn't activate, that they are probably not in the worst situation. So I think this is going to be your sort of lesson to kind of like maybe understand that while you have everything, maybe you're going to even feel guilty over having more than others, or maybe wanting to have more than the others and kind of like dealing with that. So let's see what we have. I'll be telling you the cards because not everybody knows my kitty deck. So we have the Tower reversed. The Tower reversed is actually not a good card. And that kind of like, it is telling me that there is like this conflict. Do I really want to continue the way it is? Maybe you're on a path which seems to be easy and trying to just like kind of like neglect other things that need to be looked upon, but sort of like somewhere in the back of your head, you know, this like there is like nagging sense of guilt, which is like completely, really, if you think about it, useless emotion. It's like nothing you can do is going to continue having you in this space. What you can do is apologize, or if or just to write a letter to yourself. You don't have to send it. You need to get it out of your system, because the option is in and it's wreaking its magic. It's almost like creating you know, the bigger issue in all of that, because the Tower is telling me that something hasn't been properly built and you're ignoring. This is kind of like now telling me a bigger story, that there's something has been not only ignored, but you're not even aware of something that is simply not solid. Solid is important to you, and maybe this is vulnerability telling us, you know, something might need to be rebuilt and you might see something. So then you have Eight of Earth. Boy, you have two eights already. Well, Eight of Earth is, again, there will be some kind of details that are going to take you by surprise. Well, look at this, what a lovely, lovely, lovely card. And I really feel bad that I fixed Safi, but then what's the alternative? You know, I just don't like, you know, giving cats away. Just seems to be really bizarre. Or worse yet, selling them. It's like a living being, right? But this is talking about there is like the attention to the detail is the key to this situation. There are some details that are completely missed in the situation. The Death. You see, usually when these two cards come together, it's definitely a situation that you have to open your eyes to it. This could be clear, and this is maybe something that you're either stubborn. Wait a minute, is Taurus stubborn? Is Taurus stubborn? So whether you're going to realize it yourself or not, it's just telling you certain things will just not proceed. But look at this. Look at how many other lives that can come out of it. Something really good can come out of not continuing to be stubborn, letting your guard down, saying, you know, yeah, I chipped my nail, or yeah, I know sometimes I don't feel strong, because usually the strongest people really need to learn how to be vulnerable. It is how we connect with the other people. And if you really want this like real human connections, which kind of this looks like on your own, you're fully capable of knowing what makes you happy. But then if this is so great, why is then this like whole sense of guilt over here? And look at this, the Sea King in the past reversed. Yay. I love this fellow when he's upright. Look at this kitty cat. He is here enjoying himself. You know, the fish is here. There's peacefulness. It's kind of like the guy who kind of like really wants to listen to you and not to kind of find solutions for you. He's sort of quiet, and they kind of like are not jumping to react. Whoa, these guys are those, what do you call it, pickup artist, con man, who is presenting himself knowing that image is very important, that we already have these archetypes. So this guy is like, I mean, clean cut. He kind of like has these big eyes, you know, and water signs have these dreamy eyes. So hence, like sometimes the king of water is, Sea King is represented with water signs. And this is talking about somebody who is so manipulative because they just like really want to take advantage of you. But they're also somebody who, in a bizarre way, live their life. I don't know how to say it, live it in a dream. But in a weird dream where they will tell you, hey, you know, you are the woman of my dreams. I just... You know, I'm living for you, I'm breathing for you. And when you kind of like step back to that kind of like huge statement, no, they will keep convincing you. And you finally start being relaxed. And then, I didn't mean it. It was just a joke. You know, the story about that, when Nikola Tesla, who is the inventor from my country, and this is not Serbia, he came from Croatia, who pretty much invented 21st century microwave, radio, x-rays, cell phones, pretty much everything you see, AC/DC. You know that he and Edison were sort of like the big kind of like enemies. And the reason for that was when Tesla, who spoke 8 languages, it was like just unbelievable intellect. If you don't know who he is, Google it. Niagara Falls, hint, hint, he kind of like built that power plant over there. So when he came to the States, he started to work for Edison, and Edison promised him, I'm not so sure how much, I remember, I think it was millions, for kind of working on that basically power plant idea. And Tesla delivered, and Edison said, what, you thought I'll pay you millions? Ha ha, you know, you don't understand our American humor. So he got basically screwed, right? Somebody was telling him about this American dream, and then they squashed it for him. That's exactly what King of Sea is reversed. So this could be basically something that you're still refusing to see, because it could be somebody who is making you feel too good. It's like a drug state, right? You like that position because when you're with this person, it feels okay, but then they don't follow through with actions. And you know what, frankly, words kind of are important, but it's really, really important the actions we take. And then we have another sea creature. We have a sea kitten reversed. Some kind of rejection. Something is not pulling together. And this could be, again, because you are reassessing, giving that the Tower is right in the heart of this. Let's see, why is this? And then we have the Karma card, the wheel. It is reversed. Boy, it's going to be really fun for your birthday. This could be literally that switch to vulnerability. Can you hear this noise outside? Isn't this lovely? Mind you, we had this horrible thing yesterday happening in Toronto with all these people basically being mobbed. It looks like, you know, somebody who didn't have, you know, all things up there. But this means when you hear the noise outside that the spring is there. So because we wait for the spring to come, and then, you know, people start doing their renovations. So the wheel is basically, as you realize, this whole wheel is kind of like in every religion, in every mythology. Look at this Om. It's continuously spinning. The point here is that most people don't realize when you're on the up and up and on top, you actually are going down. But now you're actually down. If you feel that this whole situation, as it kind of looks like, it's kind of like turning in a kind of like sense of finality. And maybe you're feeling, maybe you are the one finalizing something, and hence you're feeling this guilt. Maybe you feel that you would rather be alone with somebody. And there is a High Priestess. It's sort of like turning inside. It's a very good card to kind of like get. Look at that peacefulness. You guys are not necessarily going to go out and be extremely sociable, I have to tell you. You will be, maybe you may be sociable, but you sort of like will be one of those sages to yourself, and kind of like, you know, I sometimes go and sit on a park bench and I just like watch people, especially couples, and you don't have to hear the words because they could be at a distance, but it's all you see is like in actions. The body language is like almost like 85% of what we do. So this is kind of like that feeling, kind of like that connection. So this is your environment, Seven of Sky, but it's reversed. Look at that kitty pig here, stealing the little mouse. Who knows how long it took to get this little kind of like prey. And of course, the other one, just like a little distraction, can actually take our good work away. So this is coming in the environment. Somebody is receiving some kind of clarity about the situation that could have involved betrayal. Obviously, that can involve, you know, a whole bunch of things. And then we have a Sky King, also reversed. Okay, so you might be a little bit of a Judge Judy. I might feel a little bit grumpy this month. And maybe it's the realization. Somebody's coming up. This also can actually indicate somebody coming up with an apology and you processing this. And given that you are like stubborn sign, you might feel like, screw you! Kind of a thing, right? Get away from me, right? And I am so cool on my own. This could be that, because that exactly is what is calling for vulnerability. Because look at that, it's challenging you. Vulnerability is not in your head. Vulnerability is in your heart, and it's almost like closing it in, right, and stopping it. But you have like lots of emotions bubbling up this month. Look at this. All emotional kind of cards. So where is this heading? But it's heading to the wonderful place, Six of Sea. So you're receiving that kind of like equilibrium where, you know, there's this sense of belonging. It's going to be a really emotional month for you. It's going to be a month reaching a clarity for yourself, sort of like just experiencing things around you. And I think vulnerability is also a highly emotional process where we kind of like really want to see, we really want to see, because you're actually expanding as a soul with being able to be vulnerable. It's very hard for the air signs, very, very hard. It's kind of almost like easy for water signs, and you're somewhere in the middle. But it looks like you're getting a really good mix, a really, really good balance to deal with putting something to rest. And I think you have to reassess what guilt you have in this situation and how to deal with this. I will actually clarify that guilt. Actually, I want to grab these cards as well. I will clarify this guilt. Why is this guilt there for Taurus? And guys, please click like. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I see. Look at this. Melody and thoughts. Again, as I said, this is like in your head. You have to get it out of your head or you're going to get sick. So maybe also, given that we have Meadow card, go out. Spend time out. And I always say to my client, take the shoes off and step on the ground. You need to feel the grounding element. And that can actually really allow that process, that light to come through it, so you can actually get through it. And let me see the wheel. Why is the wheel here for Taurus? Yeah, it could have been a situation that maybe involved a third party. Maybe it was just too much happening, and somebody lacked loyalty in this particular situation, because you have joyfulness reversed but faithfulness upright, right? So it is kind of like sometimes when we wonder, why is this happening to me? And hence you're trying to find these solutions. It's kind of weird, because I actually wanted to get this High Priestess, one more card for this deck to check her out. And we have a facade, and again, interestingly enough, this is going back to confidence. This is going back to this vulnerability, because look at this cloud motive, like they are walking on clouds and presenting to their little self. This is our like kind of like what do you call it, inner child, right? Everything is okay, everything is okay. Maybe this vulnerability has to happen within yourselves, because I see lots of indication that yes, while there will be people around you, that you need to find your own sweet spot. This doesn't have to necessarily talk about somebody who immediately was here in the past and painting this great picture for you and maybe great relationship and stuff, but it simply is, you know, how people leave their mark. And you see, she is able to reassess that and say, okay, you know what, I'm going to write this down, but I'm going to move on, because this is still thinking about the past. This is still reassessing, lots of thinking about the past. Oh my God, thinking. And let me check the death. Yeah, it was something that is not moving forward. It's literally the butterflies being squished. You have the Merchant and frivolity. And the Merchant can talk about a distance. You need to kind of put a distance between you and somebody else. Very important for you to raise again. This is like almost like identical message over here. But this is giving additional information that the distance was needed. And it could really indicate a water sign, but it could also indicate that, because this Merchant is like really so native for you, and it's kind of good, because you guys have this ability to filter life through earth elements. So sort of like, is this working? Do I feel safe? And how do I continue feeling safe but sort of open myself emotionally? Because maybe you have opened up emotionally and got shut down, or you shut somebody down because you realize something is not going in a good direction. In any case, it seems to be like a really month where you are kind of getting things right and realizing what cannot stay because it's harmful for you, and how to basically feel, you know, life better, how to ground yourself better, because there is like something that is lacking in a sense of security, because I can see that you feel that maybe you're a little bit of a faker to some extent. So my dear Taurus, I hope you enjoyed your birthday forecast, and I would love to hear your comments, and please subscribe and share. Join Facebook and Instagram for your daily dose of tarot, and if you subscribe, then you're actually invited to my live session, so that's kind of cool, because we sometimes have a really awesome group and enjoy the coffee together. And lastly, yeah, please, if you're interested in a school, check www.cattarot.ca, and it's the same link, cattarot.ca, for getting your own reading and checking, like, I mean, what's going on. Love you guys, all the best.